And joining us now is Lucy Letby's barrister, Mark McDonald, who is pushing to have her case reviewed. And powerful testimony from the family, but at the same time, they can't reach a conclusion.
No, a very brave family to come forward. This is a family whose child was not on the indictments and not part of the trial, but one that had been contacted by the police at a very early stage. And they sort of try and put things into context. And one must always remember that, yes, I represent a woman who I say there was a miscarriage of justice, but behind this are a lot of families that have suffered. And if she's innocent, they've suffered needlessly by going through a trial. Obviously, they've lost their child, but the whole process of a trial was wrong. And, you know, Professor Xu Li, the leader of the international panel, said, in our view, no crime was committed, which means, in their view, she's innocent.
But you'll know those families find, many of them find you talking about this in the way you do, advocating for somebody, Lucy Letby, who's been convicted. They find it very, very distressing.
Yeah, I understand that. Two things. First, my job is to represent my client without fear or favour. But secondly, got to remember that the police held a press conference on the eve of the trial where many journalists were invited. They were all asked to sign NDAs. They then held another press conference at the end of the trial, whilst the defence, in fact, were doing their closing speech to the jury. The police have been engaging and putting stuff out there to the media all the way since her arrest. So we've had the state, the police, and the prosecution giving material over to the police right from the beginning, almost. Here we just have me. And what I'm trying to do is put an alternative narrative and say, oh, hold on here, have things gone seriously wrong?
We don't have a comment from the police on that claim that you've made about their behaviour. But what people watching will be thinking, I'm sure, is she has been convicted in a court of law with evidence considered by a jury.
Yes.
You want to have that overturned because you believe that there has been a miscarriage of justice.
Yes.
Have you got new evidence that could lead to the Commission looking at criminal cases review, perhaps reopening the case?
Yes, very much so. I mean, the starting point is that every miscarriage of justice throughout history, Birmingham 6, Guildford 4, we can go on and they will all start with a jury that convicted somebody and then had to go back and review, sometimes more than once by the Court of Appeal, rejected in the first occasion. So it's yes, there's a jury that's convicted, but that happens, and it has to happen in every miscarriage of justice case. But secondly, I now have 26 separate experts, over 1,000 pages of fresh evidence that have gone before the CCRC, probably more so than in any other case that the CCRC have ever dealt with. An enormous amount. And I know that they're working hard, and they're working their way through all that evidence right now.
The question then is, if you have all of that evidence, why wasn't that produced at the time when, you know, Lucy Letby had a defence team?
They did have a defence team, and I was instructed, in fact, a year ago this week, I wasn't the trial counsel, I didn't do the trial. All I can say is that in 1 year, 26 experts. And remember, these are international experts that have gone through all the medical records, all the notes, the transcripts, have written hundreds, as I say, over 1,000 pages of fresh evidence for nothing, for free. They've all acted pro bono. There's obviously a concern out there in the international field, and we're talking Canada, we're talking America, we're talking England experts, that are all saying, hold on here, something has gone seriously wrong.
You'll speak to Lucy Letby regularly in prison, and, you know, consistent with the proper confidentiality you'll have with your client.
Yes.
Can you tell us, does she believe that it is possible for her conviction to be overturned. Is she confident? Is she more confident? Has her mood changed over months?
Yes. A year ago when I went to see her, she'd lost everything. She'd been saying she was innocent right from the beginning, and no one really believed her. She was a broken woman. But now she has hope. Now seeing all these experts from all over the world come out and say no crime was committed, she has hope. She has a belief that hopefully now people will listen to her and these convictions will be overturned.
That relies, of course, on a huge number of other decisions to be made,
yes,
and rests presumably in the hands of the Criminal Cases Review Commission. Thank you for talking to us this morning. The documentary airs tonight on Channel 4 at 9 o'clock. It's called Lucy Letby, Murder or Mistake, and it addresses every single part of the case, giving both sides of the story and, of course, that family testimony. A Crown Prosecution Service spokesperson said Lucy Letby was convicted of 15 separate counts following 2 jury trials. And in May 2024, the Court of Appeal dismissed Letby's leave to appeal on all grounds, rejecting her argument that expert prosecution evidence was flawed.